some of the scenes out there as a result of Winter Storm Grayson. I'm meteorologist Alex Wilson here in Boston, Massachusetts, where the focus now shifts back to a frozen America, at least the eastern half of the country getting in on some bone-chilling cold, and that includes the city of Boston, Massachusetts. Now, with Grayson, we had the wind, we had the snow, and, of course, the coastal flooding. I want to mention that we've also got delays still lingering into today. Some of the rails, there are delays on that now, MBTA, and, of course, we still have delays at Boston Logan Airport. Departures now over an hour, about an hour for delays. But yesterday, it was quite a scene. Here yesterday, you could barely see me, and at the coastal locations, flooding was an issue. Even here in Boston on the Long Wharf, we had some flooding. Scituate, though, we had water rising well into some of those communities that left houses underwater, low visibilities from the snow and those strong winds, and even some rescues needing to take place because of the high water. Cars were stranded. We saw our own Jim Cantori in Rockport helping some folks get out of some of that higher water as it approached and moved on shore. So a very active day as a result of Grayson. Now the winds are offshore. They're out of the west. That is allowing for an offshore flow, so we don't, of course, have those coastal flooding issues. But as I mentioned, there were some rescues that took place yesterday, including that of a harbor master in Scituate. Take a listen.
We had a situation yesterday where Harbor Master Stephen Moe was trying to relocate one of our boats to a safer area because it was getting banged around. He brought it over to the Mill Wharf restaurant, and unfortunately it was tying up. A gust of wind came and brought Stephen and knocked him into the water.
I saw him and I just said, I don't have much more time. I can't hold on anymore. And he grabbed me and he's trying to pull me up, and he said, you need to help me.
It's hard to get out of those docks in the summertime, never mind in the wintertime during the middle of a nor'easter.
I know what would have happened if I didn't see him. It would have been a whole different story today. He saved my life. You know, he saved my life.
You know, amazing stories of heroism of folks who were able to get out there, brave those conditions to help others. And that is now the scene. Moving forward, we've got communities opening up their doors to get people inside to warm shelter because temperatures are going to be the story as we head into the weekend. Overnight lows will drop below zero here in Boston as well as other parts of the Northeast. Feels like temperatures, wind chills will be as low as 20 degrees below zero or more because winds will stay breezy even into our Saturday. Now, our wind advisory in Boston ends at 10 o'clock, but we keep wind chill advisories throughout the weekend. Take a look at the alerts that are in effect, and there are your wind chill forecast values. 20 degrees below zero or more for much of New England as we head into the day on Saturday, even around lunchtime on Saturday. Highs here in Boston tomorrow may not get out of the single digits. If that occurs, that'll be the first time since 2004 Boston had a high in the single digits. It didn't even hit 10 degrees. And when we look at a wind chill forecast like this, you know you're up against the cold. Wind chill values staying anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below zero as we go through the start of the weekend. By the time we get into Sunday, close to, but not quite to zero, Mark.
Yeah, Alex, that is just brutal, right? Cold air across the Northeast, and yet it's not the only spot that's dealing with the cold. This is the water cooler talk, pun intended, across basically the eastern two-thirds of the country. So let's look into the southeast, where that cold air is also spilling down into the south. Big implications for this cold air. We're going to talk to winter weather expert Tom Nizzle about the cold air and the next storm here in the south coming up. But Nashville 28, Raleigh 26. Those are actual temperatures right now. The whole night of cooling is still to come. Of course, the winds make it feel even worse. Forget about starting off that weekend with any outdoor plans. I know a lot of people are just finding the indoor activities, whether it's going to a movie, staying inside with, the fireplace going, whatever you need to do to be comfortable with temperatures like this. As we go through the overnight, we're talking 10 maybe, if we're lucky, then teens and 20s over the next several hours. Nashville will certainly have single-digit feels like temperatures for those wind chills. And that continues all the way through the weekend. Despite the fact that the temperatures try to modify a bit, we're still going to have wind chills that are hovering right around the freezing line. Tomorrow morning, as you start your day, Dothan, Alabama, 26, Jacksonville, 29. Really far south for this cold air, right? That has impacts for, plants, right? It's one thing to say it's cold in the Northeast. There's not a lot of active growing this time of year in the Northeast corridor, but you've got all the fruit trees that are still going in North Florida, lemon trees, oranges. This cold air has real impacts for them and whole industries that have to watch what happens. Taking you all the way into Wednesday morning, and then we finally start to get a little bit back to where we should be, right? Low to mid 50s towards I-10, but still low 40s in the Nashville area. Charleston, your average this time of year is 59. Remember, we're coming out of the heels of Grayson, where we had snow and freezing rain in the Charleston area. We're staying in the mid-30s through the weekend, then a nice little climb. Southerly winds kick in, and we should not only go past average, but above average by early next week. All that said, we got to get there first. And as we get there, there's another storm system coming through, which may have some of that cold air still to work with. I want to bring in winter weather expert Tom Nizzle. And Tom, timing is everything here, right? We're talking about potentially rush hour. We're talking about people that are coming into Atlanta for a huge football game. Granted, that's Monday evening, but if you're coming in Monday morning, there could be problems.
Yeah, this could be big. It's not a lot of precipitation, Mark, but it doesn't take a lot, does it? You just have to glaze the ground. And this is a situation, it's interesting here, because if we bring a system in from the north that brings its cold air along with it at all levels in the atmosphere, what we're going to have here is cold air locked in at the surface down here across this part of the world, all the way down toward Atlanta. The system that is coming in that low is going to bring warm, moist air up above that cold air, and that is a perfect setup to produce freezing rain. So Sunday night, late Sunday night, as this precipitation works its way eastward here, it will come into the Atlanta area, into northern Georgia, into Chattanooga, into Knoxville. These areas all could get this set up with cold surface temperatures below 32 degrees and warm air coming up above that to produce a little bit of freezing rain. This continues in through the first few hours of Monday morning, but then by the time we get into the afternoon and into the evening, that cold air gets scoured out of the way here and will turn over to all rainfall. If we take a look at the potential for even 1/100 of an inch, just enough rain to coat the ground here and cause a glaze, there's a better than 50-50 chance here that runs across northern Georgia now, just north of the Atlanta area, and then up across Chattanooga, up into Knoxville, and these portions of southeastern Tennessee. So this is something we're going to have to watch for very carefully here. In Atlanta itself, again, the timing right now, 5 a.m. to about 8 a.m. There's your temperature sitting right at the freezing mark, and mark the potential for freezing rain during that time frame. And it's just difficult because first day of the work week and big crowds coming into Atlanta, right?
Yeah, and it's just that like thin coating, right? You don't need much to totally put everything on hold. Luckily, it will be warming up as the day goes on, and so we should change over to all rain, right?
And that's the good part, right? That's a silver lining in the cloud right now, and not a lot of precipitation, so not an ice storm, but it doesn't take much, again, to glaze bridges and overpasses in particular.
Hopefully it doesn't mess up too many tailgating plans either in Atlanta. It will be kind of cloudy and showery, but it's not the most moisture-laden storm we've ever seen. Certainly nothing like Winter Storm Grayson, which was a blockbuster for the Northeast, something they haven't seen in years. A historic snow to the southeast coast as well. So when we come back, we're going to go in depth with our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle, on how and why